Oh, I forgot to mention the inspiration for making this video is before the Baroness show. The sound man played I'm the Slime over the PA system. I think it was Baroness. Might have been, no. Yeah, I think it was Baroness. Might have been Deer Tick. But at one, we had been watching baseball, drinking all day by that point, so memories were blurry. Played a Zappa song. So I thought that's the Zappa connection. I can now discuss this live show, and I'm just going to include the entire weekend of live shows because why not? But that's the Zappa connection. On to the shows. What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie. I don't have any album reviews today because I've been sort of as off the grid as possible for the past 6 days. Posted videos, but those were made prior to my little 6-day lost weekend in Austin. Up in Austin, watched way too much baseball during the day, drank way too much beer, ate way too much incredible food. But then at night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we saw 3 fantastic shows. In case there's anybody who is a fan of these bands or is one of those people who goes to see shows and takes risks on good music, maybe one of these bands will interest you, though one of them is kind of expensive and I'm not sure. For some reason, it did not sell out in Austin, which I'm amazed by. But if you've read the ticker or can read below, it was Deer Tick, Baroness, and Nick Cave. And I'm just going to talk briefly about each show because each of them were fantastic. Each of them were vastly different experiences. No set list. I will not talk about what was the specifics of what we'll say was played, though I will give a general vibe. And I will talk about the covers because the covers were fantastic. So anyways, Deer Tick, Saturday night, opening band country and westerns, which despite the name, every song sounded like a Lemonheads song, which made me very happy because I'm a Lemonheads fan. Deer Tick was fantastic. If you're not familiar with Deer Tick, come off the East Coast of the United States, up northeast coast of the United States, Rhode Island, if I'm not mistaken. They are kind of a indie Americana, country rock, folk rock kind of genre thing. And they were known back in the day when they first, about, 15 years ago? Was it that long ago? Maybe it was 15 years ago, but they were pretty drunk and messed up in most of their shows, and going to a Deer Tick show might have been the most fun thing you've ever seen, or might have been the most head-scratching thing you've ever seen. Sometimes it was frustrating. Sometimes it was just boring. But it was definitely unpredictable because they were enjoying the rock and roll lifestyle. Pretty sure they've all cleaned up. They're not straight edge. John McCauley, that is name McCauley, had a beer at one point and at the very end of the show. So they stayed pretty sober. But it was a fantastic Deer Tick show. John McCauley has one of the best voices in sort of indie rock. It's sort of a very emotional, just one of those almost like Tom Waits at the bar, just telling tales of woe and suffering. While at the same time, they have these just absolute rockers, silly little things like Get Me a Beer and just awesome, just party songs. But it was a really nice, eclectic, fun, kind of all over the map show. High energy stuff. There was really kind of grab at your heart, sort of slower numbers that John McCauley sings. What's his name? The other guy. Ian O'Neill is kind of stepping a little more into his role recently. He had a couple more songs. The drummer sang a bunch of songs that were absolutely fantastic. Just a really, really good 2-hour club show. Like they played at the Mohawk here in Austin, which is essentially a club. Malcolmist comes like a couple times a year, plays 75 minutes, walks off the stage. Most of the bands, if you get a 90-minute show there, you're feeling kind of special. Neurosis rolled through once. I think we got like 3 hours. So that was an endurance contest. But they played a full 2-hour show. High energy, absolutely fantastic. Just all over the map. Kind of jammy, a little jammy energy. McCauley ripping off some solos, trading some licks with O'Neill. Just all around great, great show. I highly recommend checking them out if you're either like Deer Tick, you haven't seen them for a while, just because of the unpredictability of those shows from way back when. They got their act together now, and it was just a really good experience. They did do 2 covers. One was Dancing in the Dark by Bruce Springsteen. I think they've released that as like a single, or they've done something and released that. It had a really weird, it was the only song that completely didn't fit in. Had a really weird kind of disco vibe, dance vibe to it, which I'm not against that. but it just kind of didn't fit in with the rest of the vibe of the show. But when they were singing the lyrics, O'Neill sang them. One, you realize what great lyrics, Dancing in the Dark, even though that song is almost like, that was the big, it was everywhere. And back in what, 84, 85. The lyrics are really good. And hearing O'Neill sing them with, even with the dance vibe, having sort of that Deer Tick energy, it sounded like a replacement song. And I was thinking like, man, one, Macaulay should be singing this. It would sound even more like a replacement song. But I really heard a lot of similarities in Westerberg's writing and Springsteen's writing as I listened to this song through Deer Tick, which I thought was interesting. 2 songs later, they do a replacements cover, and they cover Little Mascara, which was just, and Macaulay sang that one, and that was spectacular. I've seen the Replacements, another band that has a history of doing some really, really sloppy shows. Also kind of got their act together sort of for that reunion a while back. Deer Tick does have a band called Nirvana, which they do a bunch of Nirvana shows, but they also do a bunch of replacement songs, Nirvana songs. They need to do an entire replacement set again and bring that energy back because they're kind of like a sort of modern day replacements. But anyways, that was the Deer Tick show. It was fantastic. Sunday night, went and saw a Baroness touring on their recent album Stone. I made a video about their albums a couple weeks ago. Played at a place called the Empire something Garage. Can't remember the whole name. Great venue in Austin, relatively new in the large scope of things. 2 opening acts. This band out of New Jersey, sort of a death metal thrash band called Escuela Grind, by sort of led by the sort of female equivalent, cuter, not as stout, sort of the female equivalent of like Dio, or I was thinking when I said stout, I was thinking, what's his name? The guy who needed a chicken sandwich at the Fun Fest and wouldn't go on until he got Danzig. Just this ball of ferocious energy lead singer. Fantastic. Amazing band that followed was a local Austin band called, don't remember their name. Gosh. But I'm going to check them out again because they were so good opening for Baroness. But it sucks that I can't remember their name. If I remember it, I'll say it. But Baroness was the reason I was there. Fantastic show. Every album was played except for Green. That was the only one not represented if you separate Yellow and Green. But they played stuff from every album. 4 songs off the new album, and then 4 songs off Blue. Those were the 2 albums that had the most songs. But we got something, I think we got 1 off Red. We got a couple off Golden Gray. We got a couple off Yellow. A couple off Purple. Really nice and well balanced. Yeah, that was just a fantastic show. Their new guitarist, Gina Gleason? She's been there for a couple years now. Just shreds. And you can tell John Baisley, sort of the Baroness, the guy that is Baroness, was just having the time of his life. And knowing what they went through, after they made Yellow and Green with the bus crash and members leaving, like every time I see him, he just seems so grateful to be on the stage. And that energy just conveys to the entire audience. It was just such a fun, spectacular, some nice songs that I hadn't seen them play before. Songs I wanted to see them play, they didn't. The set list was really nice and varied. But the thing that I will always remember, and maybe they've always been doing this and I just now noticed, but whatever song they were playing, the lighting palette matched the album it was from. So if it was from Red, the lights were red. Blue, yellow, there was no green. Didn't play a song off Green, but I think they threw in some green during the Yellow song, if I'm not mistaken. Purple. For Golden Gray, it was a very yellow-white palette, like these muted whites with yellow. And then for Stone, it was white with like these really light, almost, not violet, but very light purple shades that gave it this awesome stone quality. But that was really cool. And at one point, I think there was an Audible, and I wasn't sure if this was the case until somebody had found a copy of the set list that was on stage, and this song wasn't on it. But at one point, the lighting was completely, I want to say it was completely purple. And so they hadn't started the song yet. They had ended the previous song, and the light guy had switched to purple. He was right next to us. We were right by the soundboard. And he switched to purple. And then they came up and played the song. And I was thinking to myself, darn it. Like they had stuck with this color palette thing. It was like midway through the set. Now we're doing it. And then as soon as they actually got into the meat of the song, he quickly switched to blue. And I was like, oh, what happened there? And then I found out later that that song was not on the set list, and it was apparently an audible that was called The Last Minute. So I thought that was pretty cool. But anyways, it was a fantastic show. Really high energy. Did not play 2 hours like Deer Tick. I think it was a solid, maybe like 100 minutes. It's just over 90 minutes. It was a pretty healthy show. But yeah, that was a really good time. And then Monday night, saw Nick Cave on a solo piano tour. But it's not actually a solo piano tour, a Nick Cave piano tour. Nick Cave on piano with Colin Greenwood, Radiohead bass player, on bass. Colin was very muted, very just there in support. He had a bass solo at one point early in the set, and then later in the set when they did a cover, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. And this show was, I'm not a big fan of like Neil Young. I'm a huge Neil Young fan. I don't like his solo acoustic tours. That's not my thing. I would much rather be a Crazy Horse or Promise of the Real or whatever the other bands are he has. And I'm generally not a fan of like one instrument and an artist's voice, only because I like the noise. I like the loudness. And I don't think he needed Colin Greenwood. I really don't think he needed it. Or if he did, he was so subtle and effective that I'm just not like able to acknowledge it. Like that's how good he was. But Nick Cave was just phenomenal. The energy he put in, he's a pretty good piano player. Like he's got a groove to him. He's got like a rhythm, you know, it felt very comfortable and natural. The ability to just, you're always focusing on his lyrics because the Bad Seeds do such a good job of literally just being there to support the song. But to have it even starker and barer, I think it really brought out like, he did songs from everything. He did stuff from Dig Lazarus Dig, which he doesn't normally do. He did a couple Grinder Man songs. And the songs that were bigger and like are just more ferocious with the band felt a little more intimate, but again, in like just an unsettling way, like a Nick Cave dark way. But those songs about loss and ache that he does so well, having him just on the piano and the way he kind of just leans into the piano and you can almost feel like he's getting emotion out of the piano was just, it was amazing. And at no point in that show, like, I like to stand up. This was a seated show. I still like to stand. I'm like in my 50s. I'm still okay with standing at shows. If I have a choice between seats and GA on the floor, I will go GA standing every time. These were seats. We were pretty close, so that was sweet. But at no point was I restless. At no point was I like, oh man, I just wish there was some guitar or something. It was fantastic. He did get up and sort of have audience banter between the songs. He's got jokes. He's a funny guy, really entertaining. They did one cover, and it was a cover of T-Rex's Cosmic Dancer, which was just like, absolutely, it's a beautiful song to begin with. Just already one of my favorite T-Rex songs. But to hear Nick Cave do it and to give T-Rex and Mark Bolan some love, that's Mark Bolan, not Mark Volman. Yeah, it was just, that was a really neat surprise. I'd been joking prior to the show that it was just going to be like, we didn't look up set lists. So I was like, what if this is just a show of covers? What if Nick Cave just comes out and does covers? We were throwing out all these stupid covers he could do. And so we get like, probably like an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half through the show. And he's like, we're going to do a cover now. And I was like, yeah, never guessed a T-Rex cover. But that was a really, really good show. By far the most expensive of them. It was in the Moody Theater, or not, yeah, it was in the, not the amphitheater, but like the ACL Live Theater. So it was a really nice venue, fantastic sound just for piano and bass. But yeah, Colin Greenwood got a bass solo, did an entire verse on the bass in Cosmic Dancer. That was actually pretty sweet. But anyways, that was a really, really, really good show. And if you're a Nick Cave fan and you get the chance to see it, I was a little like piano, maybe I'll skip this one, but I think it was better than probably the last couple of tours with the band, because I think that starkness, just, he knew he had to bring maybe a little more, put a little more into it, or maybe he was just feeling it a little more because he never had the band to like sort of just kind of relax on. It was fantastic. So that's it. I just wanted to share my experience in the last 6 days, days before and after, took some vacation before and after that time. Some great food. Loro in Austin. If you're ever in Austin, go to Loro, Loro. Highly recommend that. Sort of an Asian sort of Asian fusion cuisine, just great beer selection, fantastic food. Vegetarian here, awesome. Best fried tofu I've ever had in my life. Nice rice bowl. Oh my gosh, absolutely amazing. But yeah, if you are a fan of either of these bands, or if you're a fan of indie Americana country folk rock with a sort of rowdy party attitude, check out Deer Tick. If you like your metal with a lot of prog in it and a 2-guitar attack with Gina Gleason just absolutely shredding on lead guitar, check out Baroness. And if you're a Nick Cave fan, or if you love sort of the Bob Dylan but with a lot more darkness and moroseness, lyrics maybe a little more confrontational and in your face, then go see Nick Cave. They were all fantastic. But that's all I got. Just wanted to rant about music because I love me some music, and yeah, you know how that works. That's all I got. I'll be back in tomorrow or the next day with some more album stuff, people. Peace. Talk to you later.